Okay, so I'm coming out of a country where agriculture is really, really important, where livestock is really, really important. We have 5 million inhabitants in Denmark and about 30 million pigs. So that's a lot of pigs, also a lot of cows. And just to emphasize how important agriculture is and climate in Denmark, these guys here, this expert committee, they have a new suggestion about how a tax should be implemented in Denmark already as of next year. And just to indicate how important this is, this was broadcasted live on national TV when they presented this tax. That's very seldom that you see something on tax, with taxes being broadcasted live on national TV, but that just shows how important it is in Denmark. And it of course creates a lot of concern in the farmers. Will this, their first idea was that this should actually result in quite a significant reduction in the number of animals in Denmark. So it's actually not very easy to see here. And if you look into this law we have on our way about climate, it is very clearly stipulated in this climate law from the Danish government that emissions from livestock digestion and manure handling must be reduced while animal welfare is not impaired. That is clearly stipulated, and that has, of course, by having that being so clearly stipulated, also created some concerns whether when we have these feed additives on the way, will they then actually have a negative effect on animal welfare? And if not, has it actually even been tested? So this is just to say that this with animal welfare in our setting is important. So what have we been doing? A little bit of data on what we have been doing from research from our side. We have identified what we call the low-hanging fruits. And with being a low-hanging fruit, it means that the effect should be significant. It should be consistent. So in a lot of trials, you will see the same effect. It should also be persistent, so that the animals don't adapt, at least not in the short term. So it should be on a high TRL level, so be ready to be implemented like tomorrow. And then it should only have minor negative trade-offs. And in this, we have identified that fat supplementation and working with Bovaer and nitrate, they are the three low-hanging fruits in our system. And I have highlighted fat supplementation and Bovaer in green, because they are actually specifically mentioned in this law, or this suggestion from this expert panel, that this should be introduced in Denmark as of next year. How it's going to be introduced is not specified, but they are specifically mentioned as something that the farmers most likely will need to do as of next year. So what actually happens then when we take these low-hanging fruits into play? We did a trial, or it was my colleague of mine, Morten Meiggaard. So let's see what happens if we use all three at the same time. So we had a trial with some dairy cows where we fed either a low or high level of fat in the diet, combined with or without nitrate in the diet, combined with or without 3-NOP in the diet. So in total, 8 different combinations in play here to see what are the interactions between these different feed additives. And our hypothesis was actually that they would be additive because their mode of action are so different. So only a few data on this. These are the 8 different treatments. You cannot see them. Something has gone wrong with, I think a little bit wrong down there at the bottom. So what is highlighted here in blue, if you go all the way to the left, that is the control. The second one is this 3-NOP diet, so the cows that only got 3-NOP and no nitrate or no fat. The third one is the cows that got only nitrate. Number 5 is the cows that only got fat. And number 8 over here to the right is what we call the cocktail, when they got all 3 additives. So this is methane yield. And literally what we can see here is that the effect of combining all 3 additives at the same time is actually not better than just feeding them with Bovaer. So to state, Morten Meiggaard, my colleague, feed additives are for sure not additive. And this is going to pose a huge problem in the future because we haven't even started talking about interaction with breed or interaction with diet. So how are we going to regulate this on farm when we have these apparent challenges with additivity and interaction? So just to say that was the response from the cows. Things were not additive. Then we kind of asked the microbes at the same time. And this is just a very simple fingerprint of what happens in the rumen with the microbes. So you can see when we added fat to the diet, we saw a change in one family, so not really a major change in the rumen environment. The same with nitrate, and a little bit of changes in 4 different families when we added 3-NOP. But when we added all 3 together, we see a much bigger change in the rumen environment. So it's not only on the cow level about the methane, it's actually also about the microbes, that these things are not additive, and this poses a huge problem. So just to say, what is the overall perspective I would like to highlight for today? Any unwanted side effect, that is not an option in a Danish setting, and it's especially with relation to animal welfare. In Denmark, we also, or you can see in the public, in the dairies, the slaughterhouses, they have a concern also with feed additives if there is a high content of bromoform in the feed additives. Although it might not end up in the milk, it is still a concern. But they also realize, because Denmark is an export beef and dairy industry, they are global commodities, so they might be under pressure if some of these additives are fully introduced on a global market. So, I mean, then we have this problem that we have very, very strong stakeholders in play here. So no matter if we introduce a given feed additive tomorrow, no matter if we set the, how can you say, the reduction potential too high, some stakeholders will claim that we are greenwashing. If we set the reduction potential too low, some of those that are going to use this feed additive will claim that we have set it too low because that has an economic value for them when there is a price on methane. So this is extremely difficult to navigate in, and that's why I would really like if there could be some kind of alignment between countries and within country. It will also be a little bit weird if we set a reduction potential of a given feed additive to 30% in Denmark, and then our Swedish colleagues says it's 35. Then somebody will complain in Sweden that it's too high. Somebody in Denmark will complain it's too low. So we need some kind of alignment here so we don't end up with these problems. And then lack of additivity, I see that as a major problem, both for national and farm accounting. And we need to come up with some way of solving this. If we, in the future, if we in 10 years have 5 or 10 feed additives in play, how do we take this problem with additivity into account? And then something that is very often overlooked, that's documentation on farm, because there will be money involved here. And we see already now, Arla, a big dairy company in Denmark, they have a premium. If you have a low carbon footprint of your milk, you get a premium. And that has already by now created a market for just, adjusting a little bit on your farm data, because then you can get the premium. So how can we be sure that these data that we collect on the farm, provided by the farmer, to justify a given feed additive has actually been used? How can we actually justify that these data are valid in a future where there will be so much focus on the economical value of your carbon footprint? So that was the introduction from my side. Thank you.